A mating ceremony is supposed to be the moment your life begins. The moment your name finally means something. The moment your place in the world is no longer questioned, but sealed. It is where destinies align, where bonds are formed, where the future stops being uncertain and becomes inevitable. At least, that's what they told her. But for her, it was the moment everything ended. The snow fell softly that night. Not the kind of snow that howled or raged, but the quiet kind, the kind that blanketed the world in silence, as if even nature itself was holding its breath. The courtyard stood illuminated by flickering torches, their flames trembling against the cold wind. Shadows stretched across the stone walls of the ancient fortress, long and distorted, like silent witnesses to what was about to unfold. Dozens had gathered, warriors, elders, families, all standing in a wide circle around the ceremonial ground, waiting, watching, judging. And at the very center of it all, she stood alone. Her hands trembled at her sides, though she tried to hide it. Her breath came out in soft, uneven clouds, dissolving into the freezing air before her. This was her moment. Or, at least, it was supposed to be. Her entire life had led here. Every whispered lesson, every warning, every quiet hope she had buried deep inside her chest. Stand tall. Be worthy. Do not bring shame. Her fingers curled slightly, nails pressing into her palms as she steadied herself. Across from her stood him, the one chosen by fate. Her mate. Tall, strong, respected. Everything she was not. For a brief moment, just a fleeting, fragile moment, her eyes lifted to meet his. Searching, hoping, begging for something. A sign, a softness, anything. But what she found instead was nothing. No warmth, no recognition, no bond. Just cold. Cold, like the snow beneath her feet. And then, he stepped forward. The movement was small, controlled. But in the silence of the courtyard, it echoed louder than a scream. The murmurs began immediately. Low, sharp, curious. Something was wrong. She felt it, not in her mind, but deeper. Something inside her chest tightened, twisted, like a thread being pulled too hard, too fast. Her heartbeat quickened. No, this isn't how this happens. This wasn't how it was supposed to happen. The elder raised his staff, signaling the final moment. The binding. The point of no return. All that stands between fate and choice, the elder began, his voice carrying across the frozen courtyard, is acceptance. The words hung in the air, heavy, final. Her throat tightened. Her lips parted slightly, ready to speak, ready to accept. But he spoke first. I reject you. Silence. Not the soft, peaceful silence from before. This was different. This silence was violent. It crashed into the courtyard like a wave, swallowing every breath, every thought, every sound. For a moment, no one moved. No one spoke. Because no one quite believed what they had just heard. Her body went still, completely still, as if the world had frozen around her and she alone had been left behind. Rejected. The word echoed in her mind, over and over again. Rejected. Her ears rang. Her vision blurred. And then the whispers came, low at first, then spreading, then multiplying. Did he just? She's been rejected. In front of everyone. How embarrassing. How shameful. Each word struck like a blade. Precise. Merciless. Unforgiving. Her knees weakened. Not all at once, but slowly. Like something inside her had finally given up holding her together. And before she could stop it, she fell. The cold stone met her skin without mercy, the impact sharp enough to sting, but not nearly enough to distract from the ache spreading through her chest. Because the pain wasn't physical. It was deeper than that. It was the kind of pain that hollowed you out from the inside, leaving nothing behind but emptiness. Her hands pressed against the ground as she tried to steady herself, but even that felt impossible. The bond. It was supposed to form, to connect, to complete her. But instead, it shattered. Or worse, it never existed at all. Her breathing became uneven, fragile. Each inhale felt too small. Each exhale too heavy. She couldn't look up. She couldn't face them. Not the crowd. Not the elders. Not him. Because she already knew what she would see. Disgust. Pity. Relief. Anything but acceptance. A quiet laugh broke somewhere in the crowd. Then another. And another. Not loud. Not cruel enough to be obvious. But enough. Enough to remind her of exactly what she had become. Nothing. But then, something shifted. It was subtle. So subtle most didn't notice it at first. But she did. Not with her eyes. But with that same place deep inside her chest. The place that had just been torn apart. Something moved. A presence. Heavy. Powerful. Watching. The air changed. The temperature didn't rise. But the cold felt different now. Sharper. Tighter. Like the world itself had suddenly grown aware. The whispers faded. Not completely, but enough. Because attention had shifted. Not to her, but to someone else. Someone no one expected to move. Slowly, deliberately, a figure stepped forward from the edge of the crowd. The sound of boots against stone echoed with quiet authority. Measured. Unhurried. Unstoppable. She didn't need to look to know who it was. Everyone felt it. The weight of him. The presence. The power. The Alpha King. The ruler of them all. He never interfered. Never. Not in ceremonies. Not in bonds. Not in matters beneath him. And yet, he was walking toward her. Toward this. The whispers returned, this time laced with confusion, with disbelief. Why is he? What is he doing? This isn't his place. But no one dared to speak too loudly. No one dared to stop him. Because when the Alpha King moved, the world didn't question it. It obeyed. Her breath caught in her throat. Slowly, hesitantly, she lifted her gaze. And there he was, towering above her. Snow clinging to the dark strands of his hair. A crown of frost and shadow resting upon a man who looked less like a ruler and more like something carved from winter itself. His eyes found hers. And for the first time that night, she felt something. Not warmth. Not comfort. But something far more dangerous. Recognition. He stepped closer. Too close. Close enough that the world beyond him blurred, faded, disappeared. The crowd no longer mattered. The whispers no longer mattered. Even the humiliation, the crushing, suffocating weight of it, began to shift into something else. Something unfamiliar. Something terrifying. Because the way he looked at her was not the way a king looked at something broken. It was the way a predator looked at something. Claimed. His hand lifted. Slowly. Deliberately. And for a split second, she thought he might stop. That this was just another moment that would pass her by. Another nothing. But he didn't stop. His fingers reached her chin. Cold. Firm. Unyielding. And gently, almost too gently, he lifted her face toward his. A sharp inhale rippled through the crowd. No one spoke. No one moved. Because what was happening should not have been happening. Not here. Not now. Not to her. His voice, when it came, was low, quiet. But it carried through the silence like a blade. She is not rejected. The words landed slowly, heavier than anything that had come before. And then, after a pause that felt like eternity, he said the one thing that shattered the world completely. She is mine. Because when he stepped forward, no one expected what happened next. The pact did not begin with love. It began with order. With rules carved into bone and memory, passed down long before anyone alive could remember who wrote them. In this world, you were not simply born. You were placed, ranked, measured. From your first breath, your worth was decided. The fortress stood at the heart of it all. Ancient, immovable. Its stone walls carried the weight of generations, of victories, of punishments, of unspoken laws that no one dared question. Beyond those walls stretched the pack lands. Forests thick with shadow. Rivers that cut through the earth like veins. And villages carefully arranged according to status. At the top, the warriors. Strong. Respected. Untouchable. Below them, the hunters. The protectors. The ones who proved themselves daily. And at the very bottom, the forgotten, the overlooked, the ones who learned early that silence was safer than being seen. She belonged there, at the bottom, not by choice, never by choice, but by something far more permanent, something she could never change. Her name was rarely spoken, and when it was usually followed by a pause, a hesitation, as if even saying it required effort. She moved quietly through the village, her presence barely noticed, except when someone needed a reminder of what weakness looked like, or difference, or failure. She's not like the others. The words had followed her entire life, sometimes whispered, sometimes said aloud without shame. She doesn't feel it the way we do. She's off. No one ever explained what that meant. They didn't have to. She felt it. Every time she stood beside them and noticed the difference. Every time they laughed, and she didn't understand why. Every time they spoke about the bond, that powerful, undeniable pull that connected mates, and she felt nothing but emptiness where it should have been. She had learned to adapt, to blend in, to observe instead of participate, to speak only when necessary, to make herself smaller, quieter, less noticeable. But no matter how hard she tried, she could never fully disappear, because the pack never let her forget. Move. The voice was sharp, impatient. She stepped aside immediately, lowering her gaze as a group of warriors passed her. Their presence filled the space, strong, confident, undeniable. One of them glanced at her, just for a second, but it was enough. A smirk followed, not cruel, not entirely, but familiar. The kind of look that said everything without words. You don't belong here. She kept walking, head down, steps steady, controlled, because control was all she had. The mating ceremony was approaching. Everyone knew it. Everyone felt it. It wasn't just an event. It was the moment. The one thing that could change everything, or confirm what you already feared. For most, it was a celebration. Excitement buzzed through the air in the days leading up to it. Laughter, speculation, hope. Young wolves whispered about their future mates, their voices filled with anticipation. I felt something yesterday. I think it's him. No, it has to be her. I just know it. They spoke about it like it was guaranteed. Like the bond was something waiting patiently for them, ready to reveal itself at the perfect moment. She listened, always from a distance, always silent, because for her, it had never been that simple. She had waited too. Of course she had. Even if she never admitted it out loud. Even if she pretended not to care. There was a part of her, a quiet, stubborn part, that still hoped, still wondered. What if I'm wrong? What if it does happen? What if, for once, she wasn't the exception? The thought lingered longer than it should have. Long enough to hurt. You're going, aren't you? The voice came from behind her. Calm. Observant. She didn't need to turn to know who it was. The beta. The Alpha King's right hand. A man who saw more than he spoke, which made him dangerous. She paused slightly before answering. I have to. Her voice was soft, controlled, but something beneath it wavered. He stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the weight of his attention without looking at him. Not everyone has to, he said. There was no judgment in his tone, but there was something else, something harder to define. Curiosity. She turned slowly, meeting his gaze for only a second before looking away again. If I don't go, she said quietly, then it means I already know the answer. A brief silence followed, heavy, uncomfortable, because they both understood what she meant. No bond, no mate, no place. The beta studied her for a moment longer than necessary, as if trying to piece something together, something that didn't quite fit. You might be surprised, he said finally. She almost smiled. Almost. But it didn't reach her eyes. I doubt it. He didn't respond immediately. Instead, his gaze shifted past her, towards something behind her, something that changed the air again. Subtly, but unmistakably. Her body reacted before her mind did. A tension pulling through her spine. A stillness settling into her chest. She didn't turn. Didn't need to. Because she already knew. The Alpha King had arrived. No announcement was made. None was needed. His presence alone was enough. The space shifted around him. People moved, not because they were told to, but because instinct demanded it. Heads lowered. Voices softened. Even the wind seemed to quiet in his presence. She kept her gaze forward. Fixed. Careful. Because looking at him directly was not something she allowed herself to do. Not often. Not without reason. But still, she felt it. That same strange, unexplainable pull. Not like the bond the others described. Not warm. Not comforting. But sharp. Intense. Like standing too close to something powerful. Something that could consume you if you weren't careful. And then, it happened. He stopped. Not near the warriors. Not near the elders. But closer. Closer than expected. Her breath faltered. Just slightly. Almost unnoticeable. And for a brief moment, a single, fleeting moment, his gaze shifted. Toward her. It was nothing. It had to be nothing. A coincidence. An accident. But the way it lingered, just for a second longer than necessary, felt like something else. Something she didn't understand. Something she didn't want to understand. She looked away immediately. Heart beating just a little too fast. Don't think about it. Don't feel it. It doesn't mean anything. It couldn't, because nothing about her was meant to matter. The day of the ceremony arrived faster than she expected. Or maybe she had just been avoiding it, pretending it wasn't coming, pretending she had more time. The courtyard was already full when she arrived. Torches burned bright against the falling snow. Voices filled the air, low, excited, restless. Everyone was here, watching, waiting. She stepped into the circle slowly, carefully, as if crossing an invisible line she could never uncross. This was it. No more waiting. No more wondering. Across from her, he stood, her supposed mate, chosen by fate, or so they believed. He didn't look at her right away. And when he finally did, it wasn't what she had hoped for. There was no warmth, no recognition, no connection, just hesitation. Then, something colder. Her chest tightened. That fragile hope, the one she had tried so hard not to nurture, began to crack. No, not like this. The elder stepped forward, raising his staff, silencing the crowd. All that stands between fate and choice, he began, his voice echoing across the courtyard, is acceptance. The words felt heavier this time, sharper, more final. Her lips parted, her voice ready, even if her heart wasn't. But he moved first, one step forward. The world seemed to tilt. And then, without hesitation, without doubt, without even looking at her properly, he spoke. I reject you. The sound tore through the courtyard. Clean, cold, absolute. And for a moment, everything stopped. Then, the crowd gasped. The sound of it didn't echo. It didn't need to. I reject you. 3 words. Simple, clean, final. And yet, they didn't fade. They didn't dissolve into the cold air like breath or sound should. They stayed, hanging, pressing, sinking into everything. Into the stone beneath her knees. Into the silence between heartbeats. Into her. For a moment, no one reacted, because no one quite understood what they had just witnessed. Rejection during a mating ceremony? It was rare. Unheard of, even. But to do it like this, publicly, coldly, without hesitation, it broke something deeper than tradition. It broke her. Her body didn't collapse all at once. It was slower than that. More fragile, more devastating. Her fingers twitched first. A small, almost invisible movement, as if her body was trying to hold onto something that was already gone. Then her breath hitched. Sharp, uneven, wrong. And then, her knees gave out. The impact against the frozen ground sent a dull shock through her body, but she barely felt it. Because the real pain wasn't physical. It was something else. Something deeper. Something that spread through her chest like a crack in glass. Silent at first, but widening with every second. This wasn't how it was supposed to feel. Rejection had a pattern. A structure. Everyone knew it. The bond would snap. A clean break. Painful, but brief. Contained. Manageable. But this wasn't that. The pain didn't spike and fade. It lingered. It twisted. It pulsed. Like something was still there, refusing to let go. Her hand pressed against her chest instinctively, fingers curling into the fabric as if she could physically hold herself together. Her breathing grew shallow, uneven, each inhale catching halfway like her body wasn't sure it wanted to keep going. Why? The thought didn't fully form. It didn't need to, because the answer, whatever it was, felt wrong. The whispers started again, this time louder, sharper, uncontained. She's been rejected, in front of everyone. I told you there was something off about her. No one will claim her now. She's worthless. The word landed differently. Not like the others. Not like noise. Not like passing judgment. Worthless. It settled. Heavy. Permanent. Her vision blurred. Not from tears. Not yet. But from something else. Something colder. More distant. Because something inside her was already beginning to shut down. She lowered her head. Not out of submission. Not entirely. But because looking up, facing them, felt impossible. The ground beneath her hands was freezing. Unforgiving. Real. More real than anything else in that moment. So she focused on it. On the texture of the stone. On the faint cracks beneath her fingers. On anything that could anchor her to something solid. Because everything else was slipping. Across from her, he had already stepped back. No hesitation. No regret. No second glance. As if she had never mattered. As if she had never existed. That hurt more than the rejection itself. A quiet laugh broke somewhere to her left. Then another. Low. Contained. But unmistakable. She didn't react. Couldn't. Because reacting would mean acknowledging it. And acknowledging it would make it real. Her body remained still. Too still. As if movement itself had become too much to handle. But inside, something was happening. Something no one else could see. The pain wasn't fading. It was changing. Deep in her chest, where the bond should have broken cleanly, something lingered. Something tangled. Something alive. It pulsed once. Sharp. Unexpected. Her breath caught violently in her throat. A quiet sound escaped her lips before she could stop it. Not a cry. Not quite. But enough to draw attention. What was that? Did you feel that? That's not normal. The whispers shifted. Confusion replacing mockery. Unease threading through judgment. Her fingers tightened against her chest. Eyes widening slightly. Something's wrong. This wasn't how rejection worked. This wasn't how it felt. This wasn't. Another pulse. Stronger this time. It spread through her body, like a ripple. Cold and hot at the same time. Sharp but not breaking. Holding. Why is it still there? Her head lifted slightly. Just enough to breathe. Just enough to exist. And that's when she felt it. Not the pain. Not the whispers. Not the cold. Something else. A gaze. Heavy. Focused. Unmoving. Her body reacted instantly. A tension pulling through her spine. A stillness settling into her limbs. Slowly, hesitantly, she looked up and found him, the Alpha King. He hadn't moved yet, not physically, but something about him had changed. His posture was rigid now, tighter than before, controlled, but barely. His jaw clenched, the muscle there shifting once, then stilling. But it was his eyes. They were locked on her, not casually, not in passing, intently, as if he was seeing something no one else could, as if he felt something no one else did. The air between them tightened, invisible, but undeniable. For a brief moment, the noise of the crowd faded, the whispers blurred, the cold disappeared. There was only that gaze, that pressure, that connection she couldn't explain and didn't understand. Then it was gone. He looked away, just slightly, as if catching himself, as if remembering where he was, who he was. The moment broke. The world rushed back in. The whispers, the judgment, the humiliation, all of it crashed into her again. Harder this time, because now there was something else mixed into it. Confusion. Why did he look at me like that? The question lingered, unanswered, unwelcome. She swallowed hard, forcing her body to move, to respond, to leave, because staying was no longer an option. Slowly, painfully, she pushed herself up from the ground. Her legs trembled beneath her. Unsteady, weak. But she didn't stop. She couldn't. Each step felt heavier than the last, like she was dragging something behind her. Something invisible. Something she couldn't shake. The crowd parted slightly as she moved. Not out of respect, but out of discomfort. No one wanted to stand too close to rejection. Her gaze stayed down, fixed on the ground, focused on escape. Just a few more steps. Just a little further. Just stop. The voice didn't shout. It didn't need to. It cut through everything. Sharp, commanding, absolute. Her body froze instantly, mid-step, mid-breath, mid-thought. The entire courtyard went silent. Not gradually, not slowly, instantly, because everyone knew that voice and what it meant. Slowly, very slowly, she turned and saw him move. The Alpha King stepped forward. Once. The sound of his boot against the stone echoed louder than it should have. Twice. The distance between them began to close. No one spoke. No one interfered. No one even breathed too loudly. Because this, whatever this was not supposed to be happening. He never intervened. Never. Not in ceremonies. Not in bonds. Not in matters beneath him. And yet, he was walking toward her. Toward the rejected. Toward her. Her heart began to pound. Not fast. Not frantic. Heavy. Each beat landing harder than the last. Why? The question echoed in her mind. Louder now. More urgent. Why is he coming here? The space between them disappeared. He stopped in front of her. Close. Too close. And suddenly, everything felt different. The air. The cold. The silence. Even the pain in her chest shifted. The crowd watched. Frozen. Unblinking. Because this moment, this exact moment, was breaking something far greater than a bond. It was breaking the rules. He looked down at her. And for a second, just a second, there was something in his expression. Something unreadable. Something dangerous. Then his lips parted. And the world held its breath. Because whatever he said next would change everything. Then the Alpha King spoke. And everything changed. No one moved. Not the elders. Not the warriors. Not even the wind. It was as if the entire world had been suspended, held in place by something unseen, something waiting. The Alpha King stood before her, close enough that she could feel the weight of his presence pressing against her skin. Close enough that the air between them no longer felt like air at all, but something heavier. Something charged. For a moment, he said nothing. And that silence, that unbearable, stretching silence, became its own kind of tension, because every second he didn't speak made what was coming next more dangerous. Her pulse thudded in her ears. Slow, heavy, unsteady. She didn't understand what was happening. Didn't understand why he had stopped her. Why he was standing here. Why his gaze hadn't left her since the moment he stepped forward. Say something. The thought wasn't directed at him. It was instinct. Survival. Because the longer this moment stretched, the more exposed she felt. The crowd shifted uneasily behind him. A ripple of discomfort. Of confusion. Of disbelief barely held together by fear. This isn't right. He shouldn't be. Why is he interfering? The whispers barely rose above breath. Because no one dared speak too loudly. Not now. Not when he stood there like that. His head tilted slightly. Just enough to study her more closely. And for the first time, she noticed it. Not the cold. Not the distance. Not the control he was known for. But something else. Something beneath it. Something that didn't belong to a king. His eyes darkened. Not with anger. Not with judgment. But with something far more dangerous. Recognition. Her breath caught. Sharp. Unexpected. No, it didn't make sense. It couldn't. He didn't look at others like this. He didn't see others like this. And yet, his hand moved, slowly, deliberately. The motion was so controlled, so precise, that it almost didn't register at first. Until it did. Gasps broke through the silence. Soft. Stunned. Unbelieving. Because everyone saw it. The Alpha King was reaching for her. Her body tensed instinctively. Every instinct screaming at her to step back. To move. To escape. But she didn't. She couldn't. Because something deeper, something she didn't understand, held her in place. His fingers brushed against her skin. The contact was light, barely there, but it felt like impact. Cold. Then suddenly, warm. A sharp sensation shot through her chest. The same place where the broken bond still lingered. Her breath hitched. A quiet sound escaping her lips before she could stop it. The reaction was immediate. His jaw tightened. Just slightly. And then, he did something no one had ever seen before. He lowered himself. Not fully. Not completely. But enough. Enough that the shift was undeniable. Enough that the meaning behind it could not be ignored. The Alpha King had lowered himself to her level. A wave of shock rippled through the crowd. Uncontained now. Unavoidable. No, that's not. He would never. But he had. And he wasn't stopping. His hand moved again. This time firmer. More certain. His fingers curled beneath her chin, lifting her face slowly, deliberately, forcing her to meet his gaze. She tried to resist, instinctively, but the moment their eyes locked, everything else fell away. The crowd, the whispers, the cold, the humiliation, all of it vanished, because what she saw in his eyes was not hesitation. It was certainty, unshakable, unyielding, as if the decision had already been made long before this moment. As if this, all of this, was inevitable. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Hard. Fast. Too fast. Why? The question echoed again. Louder now. More desperate. But no answer came. Only him. Only that gaze. Only that overwhelming presence that refused to let her look away. Then, he spoke. His voice was low. Calm. Controlled. But it carried through the courtyard like a command. She is not rejected. The word struck first. Hard. Confusing. Unbelievable. A murmur broke through the crowd. Louder this time. More chaotic. What does that mean? She was rejected. Everyone heard it. He can't just... But no one dared interrupt him. Because he hadn't finished. There was a pause. A brief, heavy pause. As if the world itself was bracing. Waiting. For the next words. And when they came, they shattered everything. She is mine. Silence. Absolute. Even the wind stopped. Because those 3 words were not just a statement. They were a declaration. A claim. And in this world, a claim from the Alpha King was law. The effect was immediate. The elders stiffened. The warriors froze. The crowd unraveled. Shock spread first. Then confusion. Then something darker. Something more dangerous. Fear. Because this was not just unexpected. It was impossible. The Alpha King did not claim like this. Did not interfere. Did not involve himself in bonds beneath him. And he certainly did not claim. A rejected. Her breath trembled. Unsteady. Uncertain. The weight of his words pressed against her. Not like comfort. Not like safety. But like ownership. Her chest tightened. That's strange. Lingering pain flaring again. But differently this time. Not breaking. Binding. No. Her mind struggled to catch up. To understand. To make sense of something that refused to follow logic. Why me? The question burned now. Relentless. Unanswered. Because nothing about this made sense. Not the way he looked at her. Not the way her body responded to his touch. Not the way the broken bond still pulsed inside her chest. As if it had never truly broken at all. As if it had been waiting. For this. The man who had rejected her stepped forward suddenly. Anger flashing across his face. This isn't right, he said, his voice sharp, strained. She was mine too. Was. The Alpha King didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. But the single word cut deeper than anything else spoken that night. The man froze. Because that tone, that finality, left no room for argument. No room for defiance. And everyone knew it. The hierarchy had shifted. In a single moment, what had once been shame was now something else entirely. Something dangerous. Something coveted. Something that placed her at the center of something far greater than herself. And yet, none of that mattered. Not really. Because beneath it all, beneath the shock, the confusion, the overwhelming weight of his claim, there was something else. Something no one else could see. Something no one else could feel. The bond inside her chest was still there, still pulsing, still alive. And now, it was responding to him. Her breath faltered, eyes widening slightly. This isn't right. Because bonds didn't behave like this. Rejection didn't work like this. Nothing about this was supposed to happen. And yet, it was. The Alpha King's gaze didn't leave hers. Not for a second. As if he felt it too. As if he understood something she didn't. Or worse. As if he had known all along. The crowd continued to murmur. Unstable. Uneasy. On the edge of something bigger. Because this moment, this single, impossible moment, had just changed everything. The rules. The order. The balance. All of it. Fractured. And standing at the center of it was her. The rejected. Now claimed. Her world tilted. Not physically. But mentally. Emotionally. Because the question had changed now. It wasn't why was she rejected? It was, why did he choose her? And more importantly, what would that choice cost? The snow continued to fall. Soft. Silent. Uncaring. But beneath it, something had begun. Something irreversible. Because what no one knew was that this wasn't a choice. The silence didn't last. It couldn't. Because silence in a place like this never meant peace. It meant pressure. And pressure always breaks. The murmurs came first. Low. Uneven. Uncertain. Like cracks forming beneath frozen ground. She is his? That's impossible. He can't just claim her. She was rejected. The words collided. Overlapped. Grew louder. Not enough to challenge him. Never that. But enough to reveal something dangerous. Instability. Because the rules had been broken. And when rules break, people start asking questions. She felt it. Not just the sound, but the shift. The weight of every gaze in the courtyard had changed. Moments ago, they looked at her with pity, with mockery, with dismissal. Now, they looked at her with something else. Fear. Her breath came shallow, unsteady, because she didn't understand any of this. Not his claim. Not the way her chest still pulsed with something that refused to die. Not the way his presence seemed to pull at something deep inside her. Something that had never existed before. This doesn't make sense. The words slipped from her lips before she could stop them. Barely above a whisper. Barely meant to be heard. But he heard them. Of course he did. His gaze didn't soften. Didn't waver. But something shifted. Something internal. Something controlled. You felt it, he said quietly. It wasn't a question. Her brows furrowed slightly. Confusion tightening her expression. Felt what? Another pause. Short. Measured. As if he was choosing what to reveal. And what to keep hidden. The bond. The word hit her harder than expected. Her breath caught. Again. No. That wasn't possible. There is no bond, she said, her voice firmer now. Not strong but resisting. He rejected me. The statement should have ended the conversation. Should have closed the door completely. But it didn't. Because his expression didn't change. Not even slightly. He rejected you, he agreed. A flicker of something passed through his eyes. Dark. Brief. But I didn't. Her heart stuttered. That didn't make sense either. Her fingers tightened at her sides. That's not how it works, she said, quieter now. You can't just. It is when the bond isn't his to break. Silence. The words didn't just interrupt her. They rewrote everything. Her mind struggled to catch up, to process, to understand something that felt fundamentally wrong. "What are you saying?" He stepped closer, just slightly, but enough to shift the air again. "That what you felt," he said, his voice lower now, more controlled, "was never meant for him." Her pulse quickened. "Then why?" "Because something interfered." The answer came too fast, too precise, as if he had already thought it through, as if he had already known. A chill ran through her, not from the cold, but from the implication. Interfered? Her mind reached for understanding, but found nothing. "Bonds don't just get confused," she said, almost to herself. "No," he replied. Another pause. "They don't." The way he said it, calm certain, made it worse, because it meant this wasn't confusion. It was something else, something wrong, something dangerous. The elders began to move. Subtle at first, but deliberate. Their formation shifted, their attention sharpened, and suddenly, this wasn't just a moment anymore. It was a problem. "Your Majesty," the eldest stepped forward, his voice respectful, but strained. "This situation requires clarification." The Alpha King didn't look at him immediately. His attention remained on her, as if everything else, everyone else, had become secondary. "There is nothing to clarify." The words were quiet, but final. A ripple of tension passed through the elders. With respect, the elder continued carefully. "There are laws. I am aware of the laws." This time, there was steel in his voice, the kind that ended conversations before they could begin. But the elder didn't step back. Not completely, because this was bigger than authority. "Then you are also aware," he said slowly, "that what you are suggesting cannot be." Finally, the Alpha King looked away from her, turning toward the elder. And for the first time that night, something dangerous surfaced fully in his expression. Cold, sharp, unyielding. "Say it." The command wasn't loud, but it forced the truth forward. The elder hesitated, just for a second. Then, "She is not a suitable match." The words landed carefully, but their meaning was clear. Unfit. The crowd shifted again, unease deepening, because everyone knew what that meant. She wasn't like them, never had been. "Explain," the Alpha King said. The elder's jaw tightened slightly. "She does not carry the bond properly. She has shown no signs of connection. Her reactions, her responses, are irregular." Each word felt like a judgment, a diagnosis, a sentence. "She may not even be fully enough." The interruption was immediate, sharp, and final. The elder fell silent, because crossing that line, naming what she might be, was a risk no one wanted to take. But the damage had already been done. She felt it, the shift in the crowd, the understanding, the confirmation of what they had always suspected. She wasn't just different. She was wrong. Her chest tightened again, that same strange pulse flaring beneath the surface. But now, it wasn't just confusion. It was fear. "What am I?" The question rose slowly, quietly, but with growing weight. And then, he answered it. Not directly, not fully, but enough. "She is mine." Again, the words didn't change, but the meaning did, because now, they weren't just a claim. They were defiance, against the elders, against the laws, against everything that said this shouldn't exist. And that's when the truth began to settle. Not fully, not clearly, but enough to feel it. This wasn't just about her. This wasn't just about a broken bond. This was something bigger, something older, something forbidden. A bond that shouldn't exist. A connection that broke rules no one dared question. And at the center of it was him, his control, his restraint, his silence. All of it suddenly made sense, because this hadn't been planned. This hadn't been chosen. This had been forced. Not by him, but by something inside him. His wolf. The realization hit harder than anything else. Because if that was true, then this wasn't over. It had only just begun. The elders exchanged glances, tension tightening between them, because they saw it too. Not the bond, not fully, but the danger. If this continues, one of them said quietly, it could destabilize everything. Other packs will hear of this. They will question it. They will challenge it. The implications spread quickly. War, division, chaos. All from one moment. One claim. One girl who was never supposed to matter. Her breath grew uneven again, because the weight of it, all of it, was becoming too much. This doesn't make sense, she whispered again. And this time, her voice broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, but enough. Enough to reveal the truth she had been holding back. I don't understand what's happening to me. Silence followed. Not the same silence as before. This one was heavier, more personal, because now, this wasn't just about power. It was about her. And for the first time, his expression shifted. Not much, just slightly, but enough to reveal something beneath the control. Something almost human. You don't have to understand it yet. The words were quiet, measured, but you will. Her eyes searched his. For answers. For clarity. For anything that could ground her. But there was nothing. Only certainty. Only inevitability. And something else. Something that made her chest tighten again. Fear. Not of him, but of what being his meant. Because the truth, the real truth, hadn't even fully revealed itself yet. And already, it was too much. The wind picked up slightly. Snow swirling between them, blurring the edges of the world. As if even nature itself was trying to hide what was happening. But it couldn't, because this moment, this impossible, dangerous, irreversible moment, had already been seen, already been heard, already begun to spread. And there was no taking it back. No undoing it. No escaping what came next. Because if he keeps her, he could lose everything. They didn't separate them. That was the first thing she noticed. Not after the ceremony. Not after the whispers turned into arguments. Not even after the elders demanded distance. He refused. She stays with me. The words had been simple, final, unchallenged. And just like that, her world changed again. The fortress felt different from the inside. Colder, quieter, more suffocating. The halls stretched endlessly, lined with stone that seemed to absorb sound and secrets. Torches flickered along the walls, their light unstable, like the tension that lived in every corner. And now, she was inside it, not as a servant, not as an outsider, but as something far more dangerous. His. The thought alone made her chest tighten. Not with comfort, not with safety, but with confusion. And something else. Something she didn't want to name. You're too far. His voice came from behind her. Low. Controlled. But carrying that same underlying tension she was beginning to recognize. She stopped. Mid-step. Not because she wanted to, but because her body reacted before her mind could. I'm not going anywhere, she said quietly without turning. A pause. Then, closer. The word wasn't loud, but it wasn't a request either. Her fingers curled slightly at her sides. I'm already here. Another pause. Longer this time. Heavier. And then, she felt it. That pull. Not physical. Not something she could see, but something inside her chest tightening, responding. Without thinking, she took a step back. Toward him. Her breath caught immediately. Why did I do that? The realization hit too late. Because now, he was close. Too close. She could feel the heat of him behind her. Feel the shift in his breathing. The subtle tension in the air. You feel it too. His voice was quieter now. Closer. Not a question. A statement. Her pulse quickened. I don't know what I feel, she said, more honestly than she intended. Silence followed. Not empty. Heavy. Because that was the truth. She didn't understand any of it. Not the bond. Not the pull. Not the way her body reacted when he was near. And she didn't trust it. Didn't trust him. You should stay away from me. The words slipped out before she could stop them. Another pause. Then, a shift. Subtle, but immediate. The air changed. Why? The question came low. Controlled. But there was something beneath it now. Something sharper. Because this isn't right, she said, turning slightly but not enough to face him fully. You don't even know me. I know enough. Her brows tightened. That's not enough. Silence. And then, he moved. Fast. Too fast. 1 second, there was space between them. The next, his hand was around her wrist. Not tight. Not painful. But firm. Unyielding. Her breath hitched. Let go. The words were quiet, but tense. He didn't. Instead, he stepped closer. And suddenly, there was no space left at all. Her back met the cold stone wall. His presence surrounded her, blocked her, consumed the space around her. I told you to stay close. His voice had changed. Lower, rougher, less controlled. Her heart slammed against her ribs. That's not your decision to make. The words came out stronger than she expected. And for a moment, just a moment, she thought he might step back, might release her, might remember himself. But instead, his grip tightened. Just slightly. Enough. You don't understand what happens if you don't. The warning was quiet, but real. Her breath faltered. Then explain it. The challenge hung between them. Dangerous. Because something in his expression shifted again. Not anger. Something worse. Restraint slipping. I can't. The words were strained. Forced. As if even saying that much cost him something. And that's when she saw it. Not with her eyes, but in the way his body tensed. In the way his breath changed. In the way the air itself seemed to tighten around them. He wasn't just controlling the situation. He was controlling himself. And he was losing. Slowly. Dangerously. A sudden noise echoed from the corridor. Sharp. Too sharp. His head snapped toward it instantly. Instinct. Predator. Her body reacted too, but differently. Fear. Did you hear that? She didn't finish. Because the next moment, everything exploded. A shadow moved from the darkness. Fast. Silent. Deadly. A blade flashed in the torchlight. Straight toward her. Her body froze. Too slow. Too unprepared. But he wasn't. In a single movement, he pulled her behind him. The blade struck. Not her. Him. A sharp sound cut through the air. Steel meeting resistance. A growl followed. Low. Inhuman. The attacker stumbled back. And for a moment, everything stopped again. Because what stood between her and that blade was no longer entirely human. His posture had changed. His breathing uneven. His control fracturing. Stay back. The command came out rough. Barely contained. But she couldn't move. Because what she was seeing, what she was feeling, terrified her. Not the attacker. Not the danger. Him. His eyes had changed. Darkened. Not with anger, but with something wild. Something primal. Something that looked at her. Not as something to protect, but something to claim. The attacker lunged again. And this time, he didn't hold back. The movement was fast. Brutal. Decisive. A strike. A fall. Silence. The threat ended. But the tension didn't. Because now, there was no distraction. No interruption. Only him. And whatever he was becoming. Her breath came uneven. You're bleeding. The words felt small. Insignificant. Because the wound didn't matter. Not compared to this. I'm fine. He wasn't. They both knew it. Because the way he looked at her now was different. No control. No restraint. Only instinct. Only need. Her heart raced. This is what I meant, she whispered, her voice shaking now. This isn't safe. You're not safe. The words hit. Harder than anything else. Because something in his expression broke. Just for a second. And, in that second, she saw it. The truth. He knew. He knew she was right. And still, he didn't step back. Didn't release her. Didn't let her go. Because he couldn't. I can't let you leave. The words were quiet. Broken. But absolute. Her chest tightened. Why? The question barely made it out. And for a moment, he didn't answer. Because the answer was worse than anything she expected. His hand tightened slightly on her wrist. Not to hurt, but to hold. To anchor. To stay away from you, he said slowly, his voice dropping, unraveling, would mean losing control completely. Her breath stopped. And, in that moment, everything became clear. Not the bond, not the rules, not the reason, but the danger. The real danger. It wasn't the pack. It wasn't the elders. It wasn't the world outside these walls. It was this. Him. And whatever this connection was turning him into. Her voice broke slightly as she spoke. Then maybe you should. Silence. Heavy. Final. Because they both knew what that meant. If he let her go, he might lose himself. If he didn't, he might destroy her. Her chest tightened painfully. Because the realization hit all at once. Not slowly. Not gently. But all at once. Loving him. Trusting him. Staying with him. Would destroy them both. Her breath shook. I can't. She didn't finish. Because something changed. Suddenly. Violently. His grip tightened. His breathing snapped. And the control he had been holding on to finally broke. And then, the air shifted. Darkened. Dangerous. He lost control. The moment control slipped, it didn't return. It shattered. Not slowly. Not in fragments. All at once. His grip tightened. Not with intention. Not with thought. With instinct. Her wrist burned beneath his hand, not from pain, but from something deeper. Something that pulsed beneath her skin. Let go. The words barely left her lips before his head snapped toward her. And that's when she saw it. Not the man. The wolf. His eyes, no longer steady, no longer controlled, darkened completely. Swallowing reason. Swallowing restraint. Replacing it with something primal. Something ancient. Something that did not understand rules or consequences. Something that only understood one thing. Mine. Her breath hitched violently. Stop. But he didn't hear her. Or worse. He did. And it didn't matter. Because whatever was inside him now was stronger. His other hand moved. Fast. Unpredictable. It caught her shoulder, slamming her back against the stone wall. The impact knocked the air from her lungs. Pain flared. Sharp. Real. But it wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the way he looked at her. Not as someone to protect. Not even as someone to control. But as something to claim. Completely. Irrevocably. Her chest tightened violently. That strange bond. That broken, twisted thing inside her. Reacting again. Stronger this time. It pulsed. Once. Then again. And suddenly, she felt it. Not just the connection, but the pull. It dragged at her. Demanding. Insistent. As if something inside her was answering him. No, this isn't. Her words broke. Because her body, traitorous, unsteady, was responding. Leaning into it. Her breath quickened. Fear. Confusion. Something else. Something she refused to name. His hand moved to her neck. Not choking. Not yet. But holding. Firm. Possessive. Stay. The word came out rough. Barely human. And then, everything snapped. The bond inside her chest exploded. Not gently. Not quietly. Violently. A sharp, searing pain tore through her body. She gasped. Loud. Broken. Her knees weakened instantly. What is happening? But the answer came too fast. Too real. His head lowered. Toward her neck. Toward the place where bonds were sealed. Where marks were made. Where everything became permanent. No. She tried to pull away. But his grip tightened. Unrelenting. Unstoppable. Because this wasn't him anymore. This was instinct. And instinct didn't ask. It took. His breath brushed against her skin. Hot. Uneven. Her heart slammed wildly. If he marked her now, like this, without control, without choice, it wouldn't just bind them. It would break her. Or worse, it would break him. Her hand pushed against his chest. Weak. Desperate. Please. The word trembled. Not out of submission, but fear. And something else. Trust. A dangerous, fragile thing. Because even now, even here, a part of her believed he could stop. That he would. For a split second, everything held. His body tensed. His breath caught. His teeth hovered just above her skin, close enough that she could feel it, close enough that the bond inside her screamed in response. And then, he bit down. The pain was immediate, sharp, blinding. She cried out, her body arching instinctively, as something deeper than pain surged through her. The bond. It ignited. Not clean. Not stable. Wild. Uncontrolled. It tore through her chest like fire. Burning. Binding. Breaking. Her vision blurred. Her body trembled violently. And for a moment, just a moment, everything went silent. Because something had just happened. Something irreversible. Something forbidden. He pulled back suddenly. Too fast. Too sharp. As if the act itself had shocked him. His eyes flickered. The darkness inside them shifting. Fighting. Struggling. What have I? The words broke. Because he knew. He knew exactly what he had done. Her body collapsed against him. Weak. Unsteady. The mark burned against her skin. Not settling. Not stabilizing. Wrong. The bond wasn't forming properly. It was tearing through both of them. Unbalanced. Unnatural. His hand moved to her face. Not forceful now. Desperate. Look at me. She tried. But her vision swam. Her breath uneven. This wasn't supposed to. He stopped. Because there was no finishing that sentence. Nothing about this was supposed to happen. Footsteps echoed in the corridor. Fast. Urgent. Voices followed. There and here. Stop him. Don't let him. The door burst open. Elders. Warriors. The beta. All at once. And they froze. Because what they saw was worse than they expected. Far worse. The Alpha King, standing over her. Her body barely conscious. A fresh mark burned into her skin. Raw. Unstable. Forbidden. Silence hit first. Then, chaos. He's lost control. This breaks every law. She's not stable. She can't survive that bond. He has to be stopped. Weapons shifted. Not raised. Not yet. But ready. Because the truth was undeniable now. This wasn't just a violation. It was a threat. To the pack. To the order. To everything. The beta stepped forward slowly. Carefully. Your Majesty. His voice was controlled. Measured. But tense. You need to release her. No response. The Alpha King didn't move. Didn't look away from her. Didn't acknowledge anyone else in the room. Because, right now, nothing else existed. Only her. Only the bond. Only the damage he had done. Now. The word came firmer this time. A warning. Still. Nothing. The tension snapped. He's compromised. The words spread quickly. Dangerously. He can't lead like this. He's broken the law. This cannot stand. The shift was happening. Not slowly. Immediately. The pack was turning. Against him. Against them. Her fingers twitched weakly against his chest. Her voice barely a whisper. Don't. He froze. Just for a second. Because even now, even like this, she was reaching for him. Trying to stop what was coming next. Trying to hold something together that had already fallen apart. His gaze softened. Barely. But enough. Because the truth was clear now. If she stayed, she wouldn't survive this. The bond was unstable. Her body. Unprepared. It would destroy her. But if she left, if the bond was broken now, his wolf would lose it completely. No anchor. No control. No return. He would become something else entirely. Something no one could stop. Her breath trembled. The choice settled in. Heavy. Final. Stay. And die. Leave. And destroy him. Tears finally slipped down her face. Silent. Unstoppable. Because there was no right answer. Only consequences. Only loss. Her lips parted slightly. As if to speak. As if to decide. But the words never came. Because the truth was already there. Hanging between them. Unavoidable. If she stays, she dies. A voice from behind. Cold. Certain. If she leaves. Another voice. Quieter. More afraid. He becomes a monster. The storm did not end when the war ended. It only learned how to breathe more quietly. Snow still fell over the broken kingdom, soft, almost gentle now, like the world itself was trying to pretend it had not just witnessed something irreversible. The battlefield had gone silent, but silence here was never peace. It was aftermath. It was memory. It was the kind of quiet that pressed against the chest until it hurt to inhale. And in the center of it all, she stood. Still. Not untouched. Never untouched. Her dress, once light, once symbolic of innocence or belonging, was torn at the edges, darkened by ash and frost. Her hands trembled slightly, though she refused to let them fall. Refused to show weakness. Refused to collapse into what the world expected her to become after everything. Because he was there, watching her, not as a monster now, not as a king, but as something far more dangerous. A man who had already lost her once, and refused to accept that fate twice. The Alpha King stood several steps away, his presence heavy in the air like a second gravity. Blood had dried along the edge of his jaw, though none of it seemed to matter anymore. What mattered was his gaze, locked on her like she was the only truth left in a world that had gone completely unreal. Neither of them spoke at first, because words felt too small for what had happened between them. The wind shifted, slow, deliberate, like it was waiting for permission. Then finally, she exhaled, sharp, uneven, breaking the silence that had been strangling them both. "You are going to destroy everything," she said quietly. Her voice did not shake, but something behind her eyes did. The Alpha King didn't answer immediately. He looked at her like the question itself was something he had already lived through 1,000 times in his mind, and still never found peace with. "I was going to end a world that kept taking you from me," he said at last. Low, controlled, but fractured at the edges. A silence followed, heavier this time. More personal, more dangerous. Because now it was no longer about war. It was about choice. Her choice. She took one step forward, then another, slowly closing the distance between them, as if every inch carried consequences neither of them fully understood yet. The snow cracked faintly beneath her boots, each sound loud in the emptiness. And then she stopped, close enough now that she could see the exhaustion in his eyes. Not weakness. No. Something worse. Devotion that had survived destruction. "You don't get to decide my life by burning the world around it," she whispered. For the first time, something in him faltered. Just slightly. A flicker. Like the Alpha King, the ruler feared by nations, the beast spoken of in silence, had been interrupted inside his own heartbeat. "I already lost you once," he said. A pause. Then, quieter. "I won't survive losing you again." The words did not sound like a threat. They sounded like truth. Raw. Unfiltered. Human. Her breath caught, and for a moment, just a moment, the mask she had been holding together began to crack. Because she understood it now. Fully. Not the violence. Not the destruction. But the fear underneath it. And fear was far more binding than power. The wind rose again, stronger this time, circling them like the world itself was leaning in to witness what would happen next. She looked away first. That single movement felt like a fracture in reality, because it meant she was thinking, not reacting, choosing. The Alpha King stepped closer, not forceful, not commanding, just present, like he was afraid that if he moved wrong, she would disappear completely. "You can hate me," he said softly. "You can condemn me. But don't stand there and pretend you don't feel it." Her jaw tightened, because she did feel it. That invisible thread between them, violent, undeniable, alive. The bond. It had not disappeared with the war. It had only become quieter, more patient, more permanent. Her hand lifted slightly, then stopped midair, trembling as if her own body was betraying her decision. And that was the moment everything narrowed into a single unbearable truth. This was not about escape anymore. It was about what she was willing to become. A survivor, a prisoner, or something in between. Her voice came out smaller now, almost broken. "If I stay," she whispered, "what does it cost me?" The Alpha King's expression changed. Not relief, not victory, something deeper, something almost mournful, because he knew the answer. And for the first time in his existence, he hesitated. The world will never see the same again, he said slowly. And neither will I. That was the cost. Not death, not pain, but transformation. Irreversible. The silence that followed was not empty. It was full of every version of her future collapsing at once. She closed her eyes, just for a second, and, in that second, she saw it all. A life of fear or a life of fire. Running or belonging. Freedom or him. When her eyes opened again, something had changed. Not fully decided, but no longer lost. She stepped forward. One final step, closing the space between them until there was nothing left but breath and consequence. Her voice, when it came, was barely above the wind. I won't be owned, she said. The Alpha King's gaze sharpened instantly, but she didn't stop. But I also won't keep running from what I am becoming. A pause. The air tightened. Even the snow seemed to hesitate. Then she lifted her hand, slowly, pressing it against his chest, right over his heartbeat. And for the first time, she didn't pull away. The Alpha King closed his eyes, like that single contact had undone every war he had ever fought. His hand rose, hovering for a moment above hers, before finally settling over it. Not gripping, not claiming, just holding. The world did not explode. It did not end. It simply accepted what had been decided. But somewhere deep in the silence, something old stirred awake. Something permanent. And as the wind carried the last remnants of war across the shattered kingdom, one truth remained, quiet, undeniable, irreversible. She had not been taken. She had chosen. And that choice would change everything that came after. But neither of them knew yet whether it was salvation or the beginning of something far more dangerous than war.